understanding your emotional motivations and your drive, what drives you emotionally, like recognizing that, like noticing when you do things and you feel better, you do things you feel worse, sort of in the short term and long term. What we want to do is align those things, your ambition and your natural drive, so that you tap into the natural resource of your biological programming and funnel that energy into where you want to be. The project is your ambition exists, whether you know it or not. How honest can you be with yourself? How brutally honest can you be in your own interrogations of your own mind to achieve a level of alignment with your natural ambition?
Gentlemen, we are live.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Dudes,
boys and girls,
what a week.
Yo,
what a week.
there's a surprise box on the table.
There is a conspicuous box on the table.
There's a big, conspicuous box.
We got a box delivered today from, well, Christmas comes early. Since Michael's leaving,
Yeah.
you know, I figured we could wait till the end of the month, but why?
I like that.
Right? So, here, let me just open this and see what Santa.
This isn't like a varsity
So
jacket with a big C
this is
on
a
it,
box
there?
from one of my favorite cycling brands called Rafa. There's a lot I need to learn about this brand, but I really dig what they're about.
No way.
So,
Bro,
all right, let's just open it.
No.
I don't even want to look yet.
No.
This is like a reaction video where you can't see the face.
What has he done?
It's a reaction podcast. Is that a thing? Did we just invent a format?
Everything we do is reactionary.
Grab that
There's no
mic. Grab that
visual.
mic.
Sick.
So
We got the
one of
paper. The paper's like a
the four of
newspaper.
us. So the four of us, we all have a slightly similar. We have a pretty similar sense of temperature, except for one of us, and being cold is something that happens often up in the loft as a result. So I have a solution from Rafa.
Okay.
So instead of fixing John, we're fixing everyone else. Dude,
Yo, watch the wine glasses on the table. They fall.
That one's for John.
holy shit.
And this open road.
Oh,
This open road boxing.
monolithic. This
As a-
is beautiful packaging, by the way. No one can see it, but I'm taking video. I'll post it to the
pink
story.
newsprint.
As a mental image, the open road is what we need right now.
Isn't that beautiful?
Damn.
Oh, shit.
I'm about to hit the open road real soon. All right, hold on, everyone. We're opening these up.
Damn, we about to hit the season where you're going to want this anyway.
The shots are going to be on Instagram. This is
Perfect perp.
Oh, you got the perp?
You done did it again.
Is this an olive green?
So look, I don't
Did
know.
I get the olive?
You got the olive. Rory got the gray.
Rory got
light
the gray.
And Michael got his purple. And
Damn,
I've got
Michael.
I've got my white on black here. The Rafa Performance hoodie. Logo hoodie. I just grabbed mediums. I don't know if that's going to be best for everyone. We can always exchange it, but
I'm probably a small, but I love it.
Dude,
I love it.
Go oversized. Come on, bro.
we can swap it for the
Everything is
small.
oversized on me. A small is oversized. I'm 132 pounds.
That's perfect on Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
You know, it's a brand for cyclists, so it's for slender motherfuckers, basically.
Yeah.
Slender mofos.
Dude, I love that.
Lender me.
There's none more slender than me.
The slenderest.
Wow, I'm in
None
it.
more slender.
Hey, guys.
I'm in it.
Thanks, Spider.
Spider, thank
Thank you,
you.
dude.
Happy Christmas.
Go
guys.
Yeah.
team.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yo, I was imagining, I think this is way more usable than what I imagined you pulling out of the box was a bunch of cycling
That's what
jerseys
I
with
thought
their
too.
names
That's
on
what I
it.
thought too.
I was like,
I was like, I'm aware of that, but
Christmas isn't over, so
I
you
did.
never know.
I did see I saw a guy yesterday morning wearing what team was it? I think it was the Canucks, like an old Vancouver Canucks jersey, and I was, and I love the Vancouver Canucks, but why are you wearing a hockey jersey? in 95-degree heat in Los Angeles in downtown LA.
That's commitment.
It's called keeping the dream alive.
That is commitment.
That's what that is.
So this is a little bit more versatile. Thanks, Spider.
I needed some more purple in my
Wow, this
wardrobe.
thing's it's fucking
Nice.
nice. Actually.
Feels
I'm
good.
a little too
I
warm
love
in my
this
tank top
zip
to put it
right
on
here.
right now. I'm gonna put it on
Toasty too.
later.
Yeah, same.
You're good.
I always have the dip about an hour in. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Well,
John wins.
well, we know how to fix it.
I'm not
Yeah.
actually cold. I'm just wearing it out
Yeah,
of
I'm not
principle.
cold at all, but I love this.
No, I really like this brand. I mean, their thing is about getting more people on bikes and being safe and stuff. And they have a really amazing sort of warranty guarantee on all their gear. If you crash or if you lose weight, they'll give you like half price on the St. Jersey.
If
like
I lose
in
weight,
the
there's-
smaller size.
There's no one to claim the the warranty.
Yeah,
There's nothing left if I lose weight.
yeah.
Eventually, if we ever push product, if any of our subscribers lose weight, we'll give you a discount too. Calling it right.
I'm really bummed about my broken toe for the last week and a half. I can't wait to get back on the bike. We don't cycle the same way necessarily. I've been basically just hitting hills for 20 minutes up and down,
Hey, man.
nonstop.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
It's a good start to the day.
That's a good strategy, and it spares your back from all the long miles that are essentially unnecessary if you're trying to get like physical development.
Totally.
You know.
I do miss the idea of, and I'd like to join you and go on a long ride just in general because it's scenic and beautiful.
It is.
And
It's-
that's a little
yeah.
different.
It's
This is purely exercise.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't found anything else but swimming, and all the indoor pools that I was using are closed. So that's the only exercise that works well with my back. And the hills, standing up, because you're on the bike and you're standing
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's
Out
not
of the
affecting the
saddle.
lower back as much. It's out of the saddle. Is that what they call it at Rafa?
He's going out of the saddle.
Yeah, I'm out of the saddle the whole time. It's cool. So thanks for that. Thanks, Rafa.
Yeah.
Thanks,
never
Topo
be-
Chico, as always.
No endorsements or sponsorships implied.
Yeah,
folks.
no.
Not yet.
No. Well,
Well, the Conversations does have a Topo Chico endorsement. So
Hook up.
I'm deciding to mention it just to remind them and thank them.
But it's an interesting moment to revisit our. We haven't really since we had our first meetings together. Our policy of what we're doing around sponsorship and I think it's fair to say we've probably had individual conversations, but not a collective one in a minute.
Yeah.
That we're still pretty committed to the idea of it being a non-commercial podcast, right?
yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, completely.
I know you and I, Spider, when we're out with clients, we often find ourselves explaining because people are like, "Okay, you'll get sponsorship from Audio Technica," and it's like, no, that's not what we want.
No.
And we're not looking to be constrained by if we shit on one converter and recommend another, it's not because we're in their pocket. It's because we believe in the product or not,
Yeah.
or whatever.
And speaking of shitting on products, I just found out that Topo Chico actually has some of the highest concentration of whatever chemicals go into water from Consumer Reports. I
hydrogen
found
and
out.
Hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah, what do you
No,
mean?
no, like no, not how to make water. The chemicals that kind of leak into water from packaging and bottles and
shit.
stuff like that. Consumer Reports just put out a report on like a ton of different waters. It's nothing dangerous, not dangerous levels, but it's like in the more worse category than.
So they're like winning. They're
So,
winning. Like
I'm just saying that's to throw everyone off our tail about being sponsored.
I think Consumer Reports has a vendetta out.
No,
I don't
no,
believe
no.
it.
yeah. But
Who can you trust?
interestingly, I think
You
that
can't trust them. I don't know.
I think that a lot of the ideas we had about the podcast have come to pass.
Yes.
We haven't gone live yet. We haven't released any episodes yet. We're working hard on it. They'll be dropping soon. But we are starting to go live to a group of invited people. And a lot of the ideas that we had are things we thought mattered, didn't, and a lot more did. And I think we're surer than ever that we don't want to be brought to you by Avid or UA or whoever.
Still, some of my favorite podcasts, like there's an ad drop in the middle. I'm just like, oh man, I want to hear that next thought. And it could be a production thing. They could end it on a thought and then come in. Like Andrew Yang's podcast is pretty good at it. Pretty good. It's still not the same thing. Just let's have an endless conversation for as long as it takes to finish the conversation. No interjections other than our own. And it helps with the flow, and we'll find a way to make that work.
I mean, we've been enjoying the benefits of this conversation for a long time, and to think of any potentially or perceived corrupting force is something that just gets my hair up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel protective of what we have here, and also, like, for anyone listening, people who don't know us, who haven't built trust in the room or whatever, I think it's just easier to take on board ideas that are useful without, the any suspicion of or justification for ulterior motives. I think, like, the space in which we're occupying, this professional audio thing, is so dominated by marketing, by people who make gear and tools and offer services, that we want to carve out and protect a space that's sort of free from that influence. From those incentives. Like, we want to the incentives we want to have in this conversation have to do around usefulness and productivity, and it's really not to do with profit. And we think that that's valuable for us and for the broader community. Something we do in the room. So we just really, the idea of this to begin with is that this is an organic conversation that we've been having, that's been, that we can point to as one of the factors in our collective development.
Well, and we used to sit and have these conversations together, whether it was 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us, and Spider most of the time would say, damn, I wish that was recorded.
Yeah, right.
Why are the mics not on?
Are we getting
it's like,
this?
I have 2, are we getting this? Exactly. I have 2 microphones hanging from the ceiling in the loft, and, like, theoretically, in a perfect world, they'd be going to a Zoom recorder or something and just always recording just in case. But I mean, there's production value here. That's a little bit more.
Yeah, a little more sustainable.
But that's the whole point. The whole point was to say, all right, well, maybe we'll have magic in a conversation in the room with other people, and maybe we won't, and maybe we'll just be talking bullshit the whole time for 2 hours. But let's give it a shot at least.
Yeah.
On that note, talking about building trust in the room, it seemed like you guys were pretty psyched. Rory and Spider were psyched today from an unfuck client. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Jeff Ellis.
Jeff Ellis,
Our
for
homie.
sure. Yeah, Jeff.
So much love for
It's
Jeff.
a big day. This is a big moment for Jeff.
Just moved into East West.
Back.
So I met Jeff back, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I met him through PMC, through Maurice at PMC, and he had just stretched to buying a pair of PMC 226s.
Yep.
And it was a big step up for him. At that point, he was probably still with Frank. Would that be right? Correct me, Jeff, on text if not. But was developing, maybe at that point, it was just breaking out from working with Frank Ocean and starting an independent mix career. And if you follow Jeff on Instagram, he's been very honest about his journey. And he set up shop at Bedrock, LA, in a room there, which was funky, and he sort of bent it to his will and did a bunch of good work. And we've watched him grow and develop and have highs and lows like every human. And this week, he moved into East West Studios, a room at East West Studios, Spike Stent's old room, which is really dope. We were there today all day helping him to unfuck it. And it's a sort of a homecoming of sorts, because that's where Jeff interned when he moved to LA.
Yeah.
And his first taste of big consoles and good clients, and that's where he met Frank Ocean, and and he is better than ever at the moment. Just his physical and mental health and his clarity about what he's trying to do. It's really fun to see, and it's really fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I concur.
Yeah. And
it's inspiring, watching the movement, like Jeff's dedication to looking after himself and his body, and how, he was even commenting on how it correlates directly. It tracks perfectly with his career highs and lows. Right? Which goes to, again, more to this approach about, it's not the plugins, it's not the tools, it's not that that we really need to spend most of our time on. It's really on ourselves.
Yes.
And so that's, it's more validation of our sort of collective, the stuff we've been talking about in these conversations in studios. It's a deeper, more meaningful realm of existence to care and share and talk about, and to see Geoff really enjoying the benefits of all this hard personal work for all these years. It's just like, fucking man, just so happy for him now. And to be in this room where, I've spent time with Spike in that room too. And so to see it empty and Geoff moving in, it was just, man, this is a great sort of generational thing. And the whole thing, Geoff being, starting his career there as an intern, and now he's got his own room, and it's just an epic moment.
Epic moment.
Yeah. And what was fun for me, I think Geoff and I, more than you and Geoff, probably Spider, share sort of, we're both a little bit contrarian, a little bit like, you say black, so that's probably white. We're a little bit like that. And at times over the years, it's not been useful for us. It's sort of, I can't speak for Geoff in his life, but together, the two of us relating, helping him move through his work, it hasn't been useful. And we've really sort of owned it of late, and we're sort of pushing the limits of what you and I can do for him, and sort of allowing each other to be. He'll allow me to go technical and sort of explore things, and we'll allow him to
prioritize all the various factors.
Yeah,
like it's my relationship with Geoff, and I would say for you too, is full of disagreement.
Yes,
but there's nothing moral about it. It's not in the moral dimension. It's nothing contentious, really.
No.
We just have points of view, and we argue points of view, and it's not
it's
tense.
It's in
not
service
tense.
of
it's actually enjoyable.
It's exactly what you want from a disagreement.
It's in service of his career right now.
I remember once when we went to dinner, we went to Fogo de Chao for some basically just meat, and he was telling me that he puts Ocean Way plugin on or everything. He sends everything to Ocean Way, right? Just everything has a little bit. I hope he here. I can't wait.
He's here. He's on.
He's on. Yeah.
I think so.
And I was just like, dude, but not every client wants you to send their record to Ocean Way. It's not where they wanted to record it. And just how he was talking about how subtle it was, and it just gives this space. And you can't fully disagree, because of course it's right. It doesn't sound like it's an Ocean Way, and I know that, but just that conversation will always resonate with me. Of like, there was no moving on that. There was no moving, but there was an understanding of respect, and this like, why would you put everything to Ocean Way? It's like, why wouldn't I put everything to Ocean Way? It's a great sounding room. And I'm like, oh my God, but there's other rooms,
They're just
really
conditions.
But
They're
it's
just creative conditions.
It's one of the healthiest relationships I think that I share in our community, right? Like there's just so much love. And even before we went on mic, just thinking, I mean, this is like a crazy Geoff 15-minute like love fest here, but we really are. I mean, I'm really proud of the journey that you've taken and where you've wound up. And I've the Frank thing was all exciting, but I know that you've strived to develop your own position and voice in this industry, and you've surely fucking done it, and it's huge.
It's been lighting up Instagram.
Yeah.
Dude, the last few weeks, Jesus
honestly,
Christ.
it's also
That's where
like,
I come in.
That's
where my perspective
guy's
starts.
hilarious.
It's also, please, I just want to finish this thought, but please. I forgot the thought, so you just go. That's a bummer.
We love Geoff.
It'll come.
Yeah.
You were singing praise to him
Yeah.
and about his journey and about where he's come from and where he's gone.
Yeah, I forget now.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I loved that post that he posted the other day. It's kind of what I advise anyone that I work with to do, and most don't. But put yourself out there, be vulnerable, tell your story, and have fun doing it, and do it in a way that's going to keep people reading. And I mean, I sat with every slide of that story and was like,
Same.
I think I went back a few times.
I went back a
and
few times.
I did.
Yeah.
It was like,
It was so Geoff.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's literally, it was so him. It was so enjoyable. It was entertaining. If there was a way to share that whole thing, I would have. I think it's now with this social dilemma and everyone freaking out about the fact that algorithms exist,
now they know.
Yeah, they're like,
Now they
what?
know. Yeah.
Computers do things? Oh no. But like, everyone's trying to hack it or figure out a way to engage people. And it's like, it's so simple. It's doing exactly what he did. And it's because it's interesting. And it is,
It's what you do around a campfire,
It's
for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You
And-
just engage.
that's
You
what I
be
was going to go
yourself
with.
and-
But
Yep. And he has this way of visualizing what he's been doing, just like mirroring images.
No, I
and
know.
just
His
making
visual
it,
aesthetic is so on point.
it's so him.
Yeah.
So great work.
Yeah.
And congratulations on the move.
yeah, two thoughts, because now I'm remembering it. Just
Nice.
if we were having a live conversations event and there was food, right, and we were having a meal this evening after that happening, like I would have in somewhat tried to dedicate this evening to Geoff and the success and the story,
Right.
because it correlates to something Michael and I, and then Spider became part of at one point. But Michael and I, when we started the conversations events, I was trying to write papers. I wrote one on a new kind of dimension of mixing that I was thinking of, and I had other ideas. And Michael was like, "How about we write something on the career trajectory and path of an engineer? Like, it doesn't really exist. There's no real marking points and milestone points." And I mean, even thinking personally now, where I'm at, which is pretty high on the list, I still feel like I'm doing the same thing every day, and I don't really know how to mark it. And Geoff's story right now is a big marking point. Like,
Yes.
even if he feels exactly the same way as I do, or it gets a little monotonous, things happen. He just went from where his internship was in LA when he came to LA to now he has a room there. That's his room. It'll be known as Geoff Ellis's room in the industry and in the world. Like, oh, Geoff Ellis has a room at East West. Like, that's a thing. And that's a success mark point that people need to hear and say, okay, this is possible. Now, where I will differ on my point of view on this is I don't think that the marker has to be in a major studio in Los Angeles or New York or Nashville, as that's your room or you call home for many reasons that we won't necessarily get into. But for Geoff, that's part of the story, and it's beautiful.
The symbol can be anything.
Yeah, but there has, but the thing about it being anything is there aren't that many. Like, oh, you have your studio in your garage in Pasadena in your back house, and that's where it's going to be for the next 15 years. And it sounds great, and it translates, and you have number ones out of it, and all this happens. Like, that's not as easy of a marker as I interned here 10 years later, I'm back and I have a room. That's like a very dramatic marker.
I think something that, so we've been sharing on our conversations text thread some of the feedback that we've been getting on these lives and the sort of overlap between the work you and Michael and Spider are doing with PMC, the work Spider and I are doing with Unfuck, the people who've listened to this podcast, the Matt Red feedback, and all of these conversations are sort of overlapping. And when we go today, Geoff was telling us about something you said on a live Google Meet that we had for conversations, and I'll come back to that. But I think ultimately what people react to, and this is not like a brave statement, is truth and a kind of an honest resonance. And there is if you know Geoff, this moment means a lot to him personally. Like, it really is meaningful to him, and it resonates on Instagram. It resonates in person. You can feel it in the room, and there are other people for whom the markers aren't quite as dramatic, but they're clearly very meaningful and truthful. There's a kind of a truth to them, and I think that as people in the creative business, we should spend more time focused on things that feel true and real, and worry less about sort of industry markers that are like I got an SSL or I moved to an A room.
Well, that's interesting because those things could line up. Because I'm thinking about this problem of isolation for engineers, and so many are working alone and spending a lot of time alone, or not, at least not in a communal setting. And with other professionals doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so the trajectory of a career is like, I work and I work and I work and I work and I work, and maybe I move studios and I work and I work and I work day after day after day after day. And then all of a sudden, your first mix is on the radio. And it's like, well, I've been grinding for however many years. And, oh yeah, cool, the song's on the radio, a couple of people notice, cool. But I got to get up tomorrow and I got to work and I got to work and I got to work and I got to work. And it may not feel significant to the individual, but it is an accomplishment if you frame it that way.
Yes.
And so I think what I'm saying is there's this tendency toward an engineer's career looking like sort of like a straight line, in that it's like, it's hard to notice just being you, living it day to day. But maybe when you go visit your family or something, everybody's, you have songs on the radio, Jesus Christ. And you're sort of like, yeah. You know, it doesn't.
No, I mean, I'm living it right now. I just mixed the whole album with Dennis Koziak for a top 10 artist in the world. And I don't even know if I like the album. And my manager is like, yo, but it's so-and-so, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's great. I'm like, I don't know.
Does it feel like an accomplishment?
Not yet, but my point is that, okay, maybe if you get a call from your mom or your dad, and he's like, oh, I just heard that record at Target, you know? I'm like, well, it's COVID, why are you at Target? But, you know, maybe.
Target is jointed every day, bro.
Is it? I would never even go.
I did hear Talk at Grow the other day.
Yeah, it comes on. I was in Santa Barbara and records came on. I was like, oh, and Niku, my girlfriend, she didn't know, like, some Coast Modern records came on at some restaurants, and I was like, oh, that's tight. Those are the homies. And I'm not even saying that I worked on it because I worked on it. I'm like, oh shit, the homies are on the radio, and I kind of wrote the song with them, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, those are those milestones and those points that you can point to. But it's also, I feel like, and maybe I'm alone here, I feel like as the engineer role, you kind of choose the engineer role, or it chooses you based on the fact that you want to be behind the scenes. Like, you don't necessarily need or desire the full attention that maybe someone else wants to put their name on the record has, like whether it's an artist or producer featuring someone, where because you desire that, it feels a little bit more kind of untangible when it does happen. You're like, but I didn't even do it for that, but I do like the feeling.
But it's, you know, if you have, school is structured in a way where, you know, you've got a elementary school graduation and you're building toward it, and then boom, then it happens, right? There's this sort of, you're being congratulated. All of the society is congratulating you for graduating elementary school, right? And then you do it again in middle school, and then again high school, and then there's this incentive and these levels that you reach. That's why video games are designed this way. It's about incentive structures. And then it's like, once you get into audio engineering, there are these nebulous, maybe that's important to me, maybe it isn't. It's not like industry wide. Like, a Grammy means something, but it also means something different to everybody. You know, maybe getting a PhD means something different to everybody too, but it's an institution, it's an understood thing that you can say, oh, I got a PhD from somewhere in this subject, and it means something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got a Grammy. I'm like, you know how many people I know with accidental Grammys? Like, this is not the same thing.
I actually thought about that today. Sorry, you want to continue?
No. I mean, that's the difference. It's not about credit or acknowledgement or about feeling good because other people recognize it or you're getting attention. It's a structure of incentives and things for people to work toward and that they can actually achieve.
Yeah.
Right? Games you can win. And that, like, looking at Geoff, it was like, that was a game he won.
Yeah.
He got the internship, and now he's a resident engineer with his own room, his own mix business. And, you know, that's something to shoot for. You know, how does an industry that doesn't have these sort of built-in levels, I mean, is that something we should impose? Like, should we create some kind of level artificially?
That was the question I was going to ask, because I don't, you know, to Jon's point, it's like, and Rory's point, it's not necessarily about you intern somewhere and now you have a room, because then everyone's going to be home like, all right, I did an intern somewhere, so now I can't compete in this game.
It's not universal.
I think the question of what indicators of whatever success means in this industry could there be? And it's something that we've been exploring. I have a whole Trello filled with ideas, but
we got into it last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I definitely want to fill out in the future because it's definitely valuable. I mean, I've seen it from a corporate perspective. It's helped as a beginner in design to grow into a manager and knowing what that meant and knowing what I had to achieve. There's an incentive structure based around that. And I think maybe in the future, in terms of A&R is seeking out engineers, could it mean that they're seeking out people with some of these markers? You know? So it's a really exciting thing for me to see how we can incorporate some of those processes in such a sort of ambiguous industry and field. But I'm curious, I mean, you guys have been in the room with a lot of engineers lately. Are there anything that sort of any things that stand out, attributes, milestones, ways of thinking, behaving that stand out in terms of what might be indicators of success for the engineer?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the question about different way of framing maybe the same question, but sort of for someone to think about what their relationship is to their own progress, whether it's internal, sort of whether they gauge it internally or externally. I know of people who are very driven by external factors, play counts on Spotify or Grammy motivation. One day I'm going to get a Grammy. And other people for whom that's sort of very meaningless and who are kind of like, well, if I don't like it, it doesn't, like, a little bit of what you were saying is kind of like, top 10, cool, lucky, grateful. But like, I've got to like the work.
Yeah, it doesn't connect.
I've got to be excited about it. I've got to want to share it with my homies. So it's an interesting question for me, and I've always had a very sort of particular relationship with my own work where it's like, I don't really care who likes it if I don't like it or like it. You know what I mean? It's like I've had records I'm super happy with and that's all that I care about. And I've done my best. And after that, it's like you release it to the world and it goes, the artist does what they do with it. And other projects where people are blown away, love it. And I don't feel I nailed it or got the most out of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm right about that. Sometimes I'm wrong. It's not there. It wasn't there to get or whatever,
Yeah. There's a flip side, which I thought about a lot this morning. It's like coincidental that we're here talking about this, but I didn't think I needed to do it for the Grammy, right? But then last year when we got nominated for Talk, I mean, Talk is one of my favorite sounding records, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I was part of the making of it. Like I actually, on a pop music spectrum, that's my favorite sonic record, and I happen to co-mix it with Dennis, right? So this morning I was thinking about that feeling, that first Grammy feeling, which for everyone out there, I was 34 when I went. No, 33. Like it took a fair amount of time. I've been doing this since I was 15. So I kind of forgot that it was even a possibility. And then it happened, and I was woken up by, I think it was Tyler Scott's like text that it happened. And I was like, oh, that's pretty
That's great.
Yeah. I just didn't even know it was that day. And it was one of the best things. But today I was thinking that will never happen again. Like I chose to celebrate that for a lot of reasons. And Spider kind of touched on it a couple of minutes ago. You can frame it. You can choose to look at something as a milestone or not. And for the first decade of my career before I moved to LA, I didn't celebrate anything because I just had my head down. I didn't think it was worthy of celebrating because I'm an engineer and behind the scenes. Like one of my closest friends is the artist that I was working with in Long Island, and he'd go out and party, and I'd be like back at the studio melodying the vocal so he can, and I didn't really celebrate it. And then I met Spider, and Spider was like, dude, you got to celebrate the little things. Like take yourself out to dinner, take your girl out to dinner, do
Buy
these
a new
things.
pair of underwear, anything.
anything, whatever it is, in these little bits. So when it came to the Grammys, that to me was like, oh, okay, I'm going to celebrate the fuck out of this because we're most likely not going to win. Like it just, my head, I have low expectations always because then you're never let down, right? Actually, I don't have expectations in general, but that's another conversation and not for me to discuss now on this podcast. But I celebrated the fuck out of it. I flew my parents out. We had a whole party across the street at Manuela in the Arts District, and like 50 people there and like bottles of fucking Dom Perignon, like doing the whole thing.
All dressed up.
I bought myself a Cartier Santos watch to commemorate some of these things, like really over the top intentionally to mark this moment as, honestly, this is a career-changing moment, but I never have to do it again.
It's like a wedding.
It
was like prom.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
Hey, let's take prom out
It's like
of
a
it.
big
I had a
deal,
bad prom experience and I didn't want to go there, so I plotted a way to get out, and I stepped on my date's dress and it ripped, and then we had to go. It was actually kind of... Anyway.
Sorry. Didn't mean to trigger your prom memories.
Wow, yeah. Point being, like, I chose that moment to really celebrate it because I can't imagine any other, even today, I voted for the Grammys today. And there's a couple of things that the homies and I worked on and voted for them, voted for myself on some things, voted some homies. If we go, it won't feel the same as that.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't feel the same as that.
Yeah,
That was a big milestone of the first of that. And for a lot of people that maybe that never happens, and like Rory's saying, is that people don't even work towards that. That's not even the goal. And for me, it was partly a goal, and then I forgot about it, then it came back, right? I didn't think it was possible because you just kind of give up when you get older.
So the interesting question to me out of this is, Spider and Michael, you're advocating a series of sort of, not advocating, sorry, stretch. You're suggesting or exploring the possibility
floating the notion
of milestones, of shared,
they're shared,
generally recognized milestones, like, and
is it even possible? That's what I mean. The market hasn't produced it on its own.
Right.
Is there a non-destructive means of doing this?
Well,
there's a reason why it's not.
Yeah, to that point, like, I think it's more so, we're not saying here's the career ladder to be a world famous engineer if you just do all these things. It's more so, here's some things you could look at and think about in terms of what might be a mile marker for you. And like, if it's around confidence in the room, let's say, or confidence speaking to an artist, like,
good one.
There isn't a 10 out of 10 objectively, but there's a 10 out of 10 for you. And so, and that 10 might even change over the years, but like, giving people things to aspire towards that will help them be a better person, but also be a better engineer, similar to what you were saying with Geoff. I don't think that if they were to do all of them, that it's a guarantee of success, because nothing really is, but it is that preparedness element.
Yeah. Spider and I talk a lot, and when we do the Unfuck sort of remote sessions, which are increasingly, about people's heads and goals and clarity of purpose, obstacles rather than which panel goes where, and we've sort of been negotiating with this idea of ambition, and we talked a little about this a couple of weeks ago, but that not everybody's level of ambition is the same. Sure. Some people want to stay in their hometown and just enjoy making records, maybe not even full time. Maybe they teach and they, have a jam band at the weekend and make records, or and that sort of making peace with your own level of ambition is such a crucial part, because you see people beating themselves up for, I don't know, not moving to LA or not taking the risk, and it's like, well, did you ever really believe or want to do that? Like your wife is from this town you live in, and her family's there, and her mom's sick, and it's like, this was never going to happen, and you never wanted it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. So it's like, well, stop regretting and start enjoying your hometown and the fact that you get to make records with cool local artists or whatever. And I think it struck me today. There's a Instagram post.
That's huge.
Yeah, I think so, right? It's something that sort of emerged.
Yeah.
And it has sort of specific personal resonance for me because well, yeah, we might come back to it. It's a bigger story.
A moment over here.
Yeah, I've got a moment too. But someone, a friend of mine, Paul Riddell, who may be listening, reposted this morning, and it's a little bit emotive, but it in the context of the Geoff visit today, it struck me. So it's a short story from someone. Several years ago, I encouraged a friend to take more risks in their career. He responded, "I'm supporting my parents, a sibling, my wife, and kids. If I mess up, we're out on the streets." I didn't encourage him again. Now, over the years, many have told me that they really respect me as I gave up a fantastic career to pursue my dream of becoming an entrepreneur. The reality is that it was nothing more than a privilege at play. Unlike many, including my friend, I had the luxury of being able to fail. I had a wife who encouraged me to go for it. Risks aren't as risky for those who can afford to take them. Heroism is often nothing more than the omission of details.
Ooh.
Right? And I thought that was kind of punchy in that ultimately what it means is that not everyone has the same shots and not everyone can be judged by the same metrics, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to negotiate with shooting for something and not reaching it. And it's like, well, what does that mean? You know what I mean? What are you really aiming for? Is it Grammy or bust? You know what I mean? It's if you don't get the Grammy, is your life meaningless? And over, we talked a lot about it the day we worked with you, and we talk a lot about it on our Unfox, and I'm certainly talking a lot about this to my wife, is like, it's the quality of your day that matters, not some distant goal. It's like, I'm going to have a shit day at the studio. I'm going to be a shit dad when I come home. I'm going to be a crappy husband. I'm going to be tired, depressed, angry, hurt, sick. But one day I might win a Grammy. Like, this is not my life, but maybe some days it is. And it's not a good idea because all you have is today, right? These are not new ideas, obviously. But it's interesting that the general narrative of the business pushes us towards sort of these monolithic ideas of what success is.
Yeah.
Success is certain types of studios, certain gear in the rack, certain metrics, Spotify plays or hits or Grammys or whatever, you know, and it's different genre by genre, you know, but or style by style, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's not one market. That's the part of the problem.
But the overall question I guess I want to ask is, where are people at with their own sort of negotiation with themselves and their success, lack thereof, their journey? Like it's something that I'm really on a kick of at the moment and like interrogating, and it's really uncomfortable.
Well,
like,
I think so that layer of things, your sort of relationship with yourself and your work is the quality of your day. That's sort of an ultimate dimension. Like, we get up and we live our day each day, right? And we can do things now to make our future days better. The point of having milestones is to improve that quality of that day. It's to engage, it's to break down the walls of isolation. That's what those agreed sort of achievements do, is they communicate something about you. It's so that when you communicate with someone, like if you met someone who had a PhD in physics and you had questions about physics, you wouldn't have to go through figuring out if they're going to have certain answers for you, right? It's sort of, Eric Weinstein gets into this idea, like if we're introduced properly, then we can just we can have a valuable conversation from the beginning. We don't have to spend a half an hour getting there.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know how to articulate the value of these sort of society-wide or culture-wide markers that people pass through and their value. I'm sure we could research that for a while, and I bet we'll find a bunch. There's a reason why there are grades in school, grades meaning like first grade, second grade, third grade. There's stages in various processes. There's hierarchies in companies. There's a reason why there's that organizational structure, because it funnels energy, I think.
yeah.
I think it's about outcomes.
Yeah, it's gonna be more likely to produce certain outcomes. And what I'm saying is, like, if you have a bunch of engineers with their own version of what's important, you're encouraging the isolation. That's a siloed set of values. Now, while all of us need to have our individual set of values, I'm saying, what about that additional layer that connects us to other people and gives us a common language and gives young people a thing to imagine that's there, instead of a nebulous thing, and say, good luck, buddy, come up with your own shit, your own incentive structure.
Okay.
That doesn't seem like a useful thing to do to young men and women trying to set out into the world. And I can't really argue it the way that I sort of, I have an intuition.
It's really interesting because, and I don't believe this, but I'm going to sort of counter with, I have had dinner and spent time with Grammy-winning friends who are miserable and feel.
Can we take Grammys off of the table?
No,
Because I
they're-
feel like it's fucking up the.
Okay.
We can just talk about sort of markers of
Yeah.
achievement
So
generally.
you know, it's you know, A-list people in the business. What is a marker for that? Like people with hit records, lots of plays,
Some
fa-
amount of number ones.
fancy consoles, whatever you think the metric is. And I've had, you know, spent time with people who are in that moment, on that day, that month, that year, miserable. And I have played music and hung out with people who stayed in their hometown who are, you know, sort of completely joyful in music. Every day when they show up for the gig that I played with them or whatever, they're full of the love of music, and it will
Yes.
never go beyond their hometown
Yes.
or those local shows.
Yes.
So the idea is that pick the marker, whatever it is, of success. I've met people who had it, who've hit it, who were unhappy, and people who didn't, who
Just
clearly,
like their
clearly,
partners at big law firms that are unhappy. and-
yeah,
Yeah. It's,
no, but I mean, so I see the point of, you're saying if we don't have agreed markers, people are lost in the woods, and they don't know day by day. They don't know.
that
what the-
affirmation isn't there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
John celebrating was not just for him. It was for us. It was
wasn't
for
even
his
for
family.
me. It wasn't even
It's
for
for
me.
mom and dad.
Yeah.
It's for
Josh and
Dennis's
Ingmar and
parents
Dennis
Josh
and-
it's for it's like a wedding. It's the community coming together.
It had
So
very
I-
little to do with me, honestly.
I see both sides, is what I'm saying. I see the utility of shared markers.
Yes.
But I don't I don't want people who don't need to play that game to be unhappy, because I know people who haven't played the game and who are happier than people who have.
Yes.
So I don't really know what I'm saying. I guess
Well, what I'm hearing is that there's some universals, or there might be, and we want to explore that. There's some universal things that people could look towards. And maybe, again, they're 10 out of 10 on whatever that principle is, might not be the same as someone else, but they're sort of more general.
Then there's a different game to choose. Right,
Right,
now, there's no game to
exactly,
choose. There's no
exactly.
institution that you can go to and get some degree in audio engineering that means anything.
Yeah.
More than a degree from another institution, right? There's no certification that has any meaning. That's what I mean. And the market hasn't produced this. And
now there's
can it be?
Now there's a new trajectory that's I'm a little weary of, and I have a lot of friends that are on this path, and they express a similar concern that I feel, which is you become the engineer of an artist, right? And you come up with that artist, and you do everything with that artist, and that's all you have under your belt for a minute. And then at some point, like going back to the Geoff story, the Geoff leaving Frank Ocean to go on his own path as an independent mix engineer was intentional on him, right? He said, I need to do this. This is what I want to do. I don't only want to be known for this one thing. The new path in, because there isn't this institution that deems us experts and we're now able to do this to whatever level we want to do it, is find someone that wants you to be their guy or their girl and go in and do it. And then you kind of go along that path. And then if that artist isn't hot anymore, you're not hot anymore either. And then there's no net to kind of fall into.
There's no network that you're to absorb that.
And I think and all I'm saying about being weary of it is not that it's an incorrect path. I think it's a potentially great path.
Indispensable.
Potentially indispensable. And if you do that with a few people, you have a career, and maybe you do hit your markers and your accolades, and you get a gold record with so-and-so and a Grammy with so-and-so, and you buy your first house from the funds of the point on the so-and-so, and maybe you can find these markers along the way, but I'm a little weary of it being an everlasting career if you're only doing it with one person.
Yeah.
So again,
It's a really good point.
All that to say is it's an example of one of the paths that our engineer peers are entering, and I don't know if it's the safest one.
It doesn't say anything about the quality of your work. And actually, I think these accolades should be taken off of the table, not just Grammys. Take all accolades and awards off the table as milestones. Because you don't want your career milestones to be
hold on.
politically influeed. And
Hold on, though, but there's a very objective, tangible in my life, and a lot of people that have had it, where I had a top 5 hit single and I got work for a year because of it.
That's different. That's a performance. That's the performance of your work. That's not an accolade or an award.
No, but it is. It was a platinum. It was a platinum record and a Record of the Year Grammy nomination. That's an award. That's a nomination.
The award is given to the record that performs.
How are they not one and the same? In these cases,
because the record performing in a list is different to a community voting or producing any kind of physical object that is representational of that performance, right? So you can put the gold record aside. That is an after effect of the performance of the record on the chart.
They sound like one and the same to me, but I agree with you on the separation.
Yeah, I mean, one triggers the other.
Yeah.
So they are connected.
But the performance of that, yeah, sure.
But it's based on performance. The Grammy thing is voted amongst peers, right?
Yep.
This is any of the awards that have voting and have any political potential for political influence.
Yep.
You just set that aside
Okay.
and say, let's say charting is one level of performance, but is there some, like, I'm looking at degrees like PhDs or things that are earned, not voted on, if that makes sense.
Well, right, but what you always talk about the reason why, and even Tony and I were on the phone talking about this, the reason why a producer or a label executive at any level hires an engineer to finish their record is because hiring that person gives them the best chance of high performance and success, right? So the more high performance and success you have, by default, you will get looked at and hired more by these same people.
That's financial success and doesn't say anything about the quality of your audio engineering.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. But
yeah.
No, because it can. And a lot of the times it does. And the reliability is what I'm talking. My example is about reliability.
Can I
yeah, please.
try coming at this from a different way?
Yeah,
so
please.
I'm not much clearer than I was, except that there's heat here and there's need here. And I'm wondering.
I'm very unclear about it.
Yeah, very unclear. Me too, right? And not really attached to any, I kind of like all of the points were made.
Yeah, same.
And I don't really believe any of them. So,
right.
So I'm going to try coming at it from a different way and see if this lands. So what's
It's a very high quality exchange there. I fucking love you guys.
It's so what we're saying is when I think about what I want, when for you guys individually, for all of our friends, for everyone that we deal with on Unfuck, for the clients I master records for, I want them to realize their potential. And that doesn't mean that I want them all to get on a track that ends with the metrics. I'm not going to say the G word, but like the industry recognized metrics, because the guy I know in my hometown who I used to play music with for the tourists is happier than anyone I know. He's just full of life and music and love and joy. And so give me 1 second.
Sorry.
So the idea is that we can our sense of progress can be intrinsic or extrinsic, right? And there is.
How about we sync them?
Well, this is where I'm going,
Could be
right?
both.
So the idea is that it's fine to say, I'm happy in my work, I'm enjoying my life, and John will say, yes, I'm using it as a proxy, John. Yeah, but like, do clients depend on you? Are you delivering records on time? There's got to be a sort of an external metric too. So I get like another way of looking at the thing is where. For you as a listener, for us at the table, how are we weighting that internal versus external view of our work or our progress or our...
I don't think we can notice our own progress in a useful enough way. In the same way you can't notice yourself aging, you can't notice your own smell. Like, we're too close to it to see the change.
There's utility. I think when Spider and I were just speaking, the utility of bringing up the performance, like Spider was talking about the performance versus the accolade, and then me bringing up the reliability factor, is that that's a recognition of what we're talking about. That's a recognition of the possibility of you, whatever the markers are, consistency, reliability, success, chances of having financial gains, whatever those markers are, someone else is recognizing it as extrinsic, and that's part of it. So when you're saying like, I kind of understand all these points, I like them all, I don't believe them all, it's like, that's just one of many of all the things, right?
Yeah.
But what's more important, or equally as important as all of that, is the happiness that comes with those correlating to the ability to afford to go home stress-free and spend time with your kids, or go out for the weekend with your girlfriend or boyfriend or somewhere, and afford these moments in life that bring pure joy, as well as most of those times working on those records, trying to be joyful as well, and choosing to work on things that you like with people that like. There's a lot in there, and there isn't only one, because the example of the band, the guitar player in the band in the hometown that plays for the tourist is, well, the ambitions were lower, or at some point they were lowered. They might have always been low, which is beautiful and envious. And I had a moment when you first mentioned that 20 minutes ago where I kind of had a tear, because I kind of envy
Achievable
that.
ambition.
Yeah. I kind of envy it, and I always have. And it wasn't
It's
me.
all relative, right?
And I'm trying to get to a mental place of that person, whatever that person feels, which is that you don't have to hit all these
Making
things.
peace with your ambition.
Yeah.
This is
That's kind of what we're driving to.
and
Exactly.
it's something, I talked about it a couple of podcasts ago. It's like this horrible mix of ambition and insecurity, and it's a terrible place to be. You know what I mean? Where you want to achieve something, believe you can, and sort of at the same time believe you can't, or don't like what you're doing, or whatever, So yeah, when I look at the guy I'm in my mind that I used to play music with, I am envious of him because he's really happy, like genuinely happy in his life. And he will never touch a Grammy or he will never get 100 million plays on Spotify, and he doesn't give a flying fuck. I mean, he's living his best life. But I'm not him. I'm me. And I've got to realize, I've got to make peace with my own ambition and realize my own potential or not, and make peace with that process, So that's what you've often spoken, Spider, and it's been very useful to me about the idea of I'm missing the word, but sort of aligning is a better word, how you view yourself and how people view you.
Yes.
Do you have a better way of saying it?
I think about this all the time.
You have a better way of saying it. It'll come to me in a second.
I don't remember the approach.
But this when those two are out of alignment, it causes pain, Yeah. It's interesting stuff.
Also, reclaiming the word content is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and how content has a bit of a negative connotation, but you can be content with your life, and that's a good thing, right? You can be content in the place that you're at, and content doesn't mean that you're being lazy.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have other ambitions or drive or want or all. Spider, you want to say?
Yeah, to me, contentment is like taking the rock out of your shoe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just drop that mic.
It's kind of like the moments that I've felt calm and comfortable and clear and productive are environmentally no different to the times that I feel really sort of wound up and tense and worried and just worried and anxious.
It's an internal story.
It's an internal thing. And like, that's one of the things about meditation is like, you can just take the rock out of your shoe.
Yeah.
You can just be like, Mona, my good friend, family friend, Mona Shaw, we used to just say, change your mind. We used to just say to ourselves, change your mind. It's like, it's very interesting to me, like how quickly you can go from, and this is one of the benefits of interacting with other people, high quality people that you've chosen wisely as influences, is that they can sort of help you do that. You know, in a conversation, if I'm feeling a certain way and I have a conversation with somebody, it's highly likely I'm going to feel better by the end of it.
Right.
Because I'm choosing these influences, and not because my ego is being stroked. It's just because something got sorted through, you know. But you can train at the same time that we naturally do this for each other as humans. It's part of our imperative, our biological imperative, is to, well, what would this feel like if this were an easy thing to do? And just sort of,
Yeah. Just
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you change your posture, your body changes. I mean, that's a whole subject to get into too. I mean, I would love to have the time to like really dig into these things and really flesh them out and get to the bottom of some of these trailheads that we come up with here.
What better
It just
time than now?
Well, I mean, it's all of us doing reading and then coming
Yeah,
back
yeah,
and
yeah.
like, you know, looking into different topics and stuff. It would, man, if there were the hours in the day,
Yeah, I know.
you know?
Yeah, I mixed up until I had to cook y'all dinner. So
Yeah,
Didn't
that
I-
is, but
Didn't
that's
get a lot of reading into that.
that's a stated goal for all of us. I think all of us is to feed our minds and feed this conversation. You know, if the conversation is a fire, we want to bring a little bit of something every week, something we've listened to or read, or a conversation we had that's useful and that we can sort of put on the fire and keep it, and hopefully guests as time goes on, and feedback from people that's coming in.
People are already sending us books and
Yeah.
documentaries and articles, and like the time, I would love the time to really get into it.
like even today, you guys, Spider text a tweet. Imagine how effective you would be if you weren't anxious all the time.
Yeah,
so
I had to sit down for
so basic.
I had to
simple
sit down
and
for 10
clear.
minutes after getting
Yes,
that. It was
no,
like,
no,
oh,
same.
fuck it.
That's exactly what I'm
I
saying.
felt personally accused right at that moment. It was like someone wrote that text for me.
I had the opposite feeling. Like I was just so, I mean, granted last night in the debate was pretty anxiety ridden, but, and actually if I think about it right now, I'm still feeling a little bit of the,
Yes,
the
in this
tailwind.
episode, we are 24 hours after
Yeah.
the first presidential debate of 2020.
But
It is
in the
September
moment of
30th.
getting that
Yeah.
getting
Oy, oy, oy.
that text, also because I don't have notifications on the phone anymore. Oh my God, thank God for that. When I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm actually in that moment, I'm not very anxious. I wish I could be like that all the time, and it comes and goes. But at that moment, you caught me I was feeling pretty good. I was working on a good record and just kind
It's a
of
win.
it.
And if today was your last day, the quality of your day was good.
Yeah.
good.
That's it. That's the whole
Yeah,
point
That's
of
the
it.
whole thing.
Yeah, it's you just put enough of those days one after another and you've had a good life.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of simple in a way, but we're not very good at it. I'm not.
Yeah, the
very good at it.
how is the thing, right?
Well, creative driven, highly ambitious people are not good at it, right? Maybe we can become good at it, but that's not part of the narrative. That's not what we're told. We're told we have to struggle to make good art. It's like,
Which again leads us back to the question: is how useful is your ambition?
yeah.
You know, how useful is it to you to this? If we say the goal is a good day or a bunch of good days in a row, how useful is your ambition on any given day?
Well, okay.
I mean, ambition is just sort of energy.
I wanted to add
Pointed
a
in a
question
direction.
to that, which is how connected are you to your actual ambition? Like when you're questioning how ambitious do you really want to be, or are you?
Yeah, how
Like a
aware
lot of people
it.
are seeking a level of ambition based like on external factors, what they see, who they see,
Sure.
what they want. But like connecting to your actual ambition, like the guitar player in your hometown, like how connected are you to that in reality, or as objectively as you could be?
Or could you even
That's the
articulate
primary
it?
aim.
If
Could
you
we-
asked, what is
Yeah.
your ambition? Could you articulate it?
Right.
What is
Because
it?
if you
that
can, you're probably seeing something externally and then driving towards that.
Yeah. Well, the danger is, you know, when I think about my ambition, which is to sort of realize my potential, it's like we're into that nebulous area, and Spider's like, well, okay, go and beat yourself up with that for 10
Yeah,
years.
you should change
See-
ambition to potential.
Wait,
and
wait.
now-
see how that feels. You know what I mean?
Unlocking potential is like dumping millions of dollars on the floor. It's like, cool.
Yeah, nothing.
You've got potential. Now what? Now what?
But hold on, that's a good question, Michael. Can ambition be internal?
Well, it depends
Like,
on what inside is.
Well, okay, yeah. I have the ambition to maintain a healthy heart,
Or rather,
right?
yeah,
I
like-
want my heart to
yeah.
keep pumping so I can do other things. I actually don't think that ambition. I wonder if there's a definition. I don't really know.
I guess the motivation
feels
around
so
your
externally.
ambition. Yeah.
Oh, really? External for you?
Wait.
Oh, it's very internal for me. So that's interesting. We should
I
define.
don't know. I don't
Yeah,
we
actually
should
know.
define-
Ambi is ambient. So what is ambition? Let's
Yeah.
look
An
it up.
eager or strong desire to achieve something such as
Desire.
fame or power, the object or goal desired.
Yeah, it's
It's
external.
goal driven. What
Hold
do
on,
you mean
let's see-
external? That's a drive.
Mm-hmm.
Say
desire.
That, read the definition one more time, Michael.
An eager or strong desire to achieve something such as fame or power.
Yeah, to achieve something. How can that be internal?
Right.
It's a drive.
Well, you
too.
could
It's
say
just-
achieving inner peace could be an ambition, you know? So
Yeah,
I don't
to
think
be
it's
happy.
always, yeah.
Yeah.
Guy in my hometown playing music, happy.
Yeah.
The something is what changes.
Yeah.
And that could be an internal thing or an external
Really
thing.
interesting.
Like, you know, I want people to see me at the Grammys or know that I won a Grammy. You know, that's kind
Any
of
goal.
external.
Any goal.
Whereas, you know, inner happiness, well-being, health, those
Yeah.
are more internal.
But when you're talking about
Yeah.
drive, that would go away if you were asleep or unconscious or dead.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
So it's internal. It's like it's part of your design. It's a force that emanates within you that drives your behavior.
It feels internal to me. When I talk about ambition and my relationship or one's relationship to it, I imagine it as an internal sort of set of driving forces. Sorry, sitting back. I imagine it as an internal set of driving forces.
Yes.
And almost that it doesn't really matter what other people say.
But the way people use it is that it's an ambition toward something specific.
Yeah.
So like what we're sort of saying is that, well, I say my ambition is this, but we're also saying we need to recognize, and what Michael's pointing at is that the actual drive, the thing that's driving the person may be not that thing that you're saying is your ambition. It may be related.
It most
Right.
likely isn't.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Is
So
it some unintentional drive versus an
yeah,
more
so
intentional
understanding
drive?
your emotional motivations and your drive is what drives you emotionally. Like recognizing that, like noticing when you do things and you feel better, you do things you feel worse, sort of in the short term and long term. That project of understanding that is how, because what we want to do is align those things, your ambition and your natural drive, so that you tap into the natural resource of your biological programming and funnel that energy into where you want to be. So it's sort of, the project is your ambition exists, whether you know it or not. How honest can you be with yourself? How brutally honest can you be in your own interrogations of your own mind to achieve a level of alignment with your natural ambition? If that makes sense.
Your natural
Aligning your
drive.
intellectualized and rational ambition with your natural ambition, the one that's subconscious.
Sounds really realistic once found.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's when, you know, I've had these moments in my career where that happened, and like you achieve a lot in a short period of time. You radiate confidence and people are attracted to you. I think it is self-actualization. I think that's what that is. When we talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and like needing certain things in order for people to be able to be self-actualized, which is necessary for a rational society and democracy to function and not collapse.
Right.
I think it is those things. I think it's more and more people harnessing their natural biological drive toward ends that are aligned with like the civilizational project. Like well-being for people and reducing suffering and all this sort of thing. I mean, going grandiose with it, but I think it's that deep. And I think this is what I've been doing since I was young, because I noticed very young, it almost felt like magic, like to be doing what you're quote unquote supposed to be doing. Something that comes naturally to you, that is also respected and valued by other people. But I think it takes all the dimensions to get the maximum energy focused in that way. Okay, so I just jammed for
I wish we
Yeah, it was
had
great.
a while.
the ability to do an
are we
instant
recording?
replay.
We're recording. There's so much
We get
there,
this.
and honestly,
Yes.
I don't know what to say. This is one of those episodes where I'm gonna have to like. You're touching on so much stuff that I'm thinking about right now, but it's it's
almost
too raw.
Like
Yeah.
like the natural drive
Yeah.
is the engine, right? Your natural ambition is the engine, and your intellectual or conscious ambition is like the roads ahead of you. It's like you're imagining a set of roads, but all the energy that pushes you through it is that natural drive.
Sure, but you also want to have good control over the steering wheel, right? Like you actually
Yes.
you don't want over acceleration. You want to. That's what I think of. I think of as
Sustainable practices.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and that takes repetition. That takes training. It takes routine,
Guidance,
yeah.
trust, love.
all the things.
Yeah.
No, that's really. Yeah, I like it. Do I want to talk or do I want to just think about
No,
what
I
was
like it.
said?
I
Yeah,
like
just
it.
want to roll the replay of that.
Do we have that functionality?
Well, I wrote about aligning drives with the natural benefits for other humans and the common project of humanity. And so the question becomes, how aligned are you on your drives as it relates to benefiting humans and the common project that is
of which
civilization?
you are one.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Brad Lauscher just texted in quotes, I am not who you think I am. I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. From Thomas Cooley.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's on point.
Yep.
Yeah, this is...
I've struggled with that for so long.
But we need other people to tell us what we're good at, right? Like, how do you know what you're good at if you don't ever get feedback?
Well, that's what I.
yeah.
Or
No,
what
you go,
people
you go.
value. It's up to other people. That's sort of this branding idea that Michael keeps drilling home. It's like a brand isn't who a company thinks they are. It's like how they're understood in the world.
What?
It's not up to you.
Yeah. What I struggle with is when other people respond to a kind of a performative show that you put on. Some dude, I don't know, might put on and they're like, oh, this is great. You're great at this. And it's kind of not you. It's a shell around you that comes very easily and is kind of empty, but you can get high on it pretty easily. So, you know, there are I used to do this TV show in Ireland for 11 years. I've talked about it before on the podcast, but worked with a lot of really great artists, local and international artists. And I, as someone who wants to be busy and wants to be valued and wants to be seen to be good, it was a perfect framework to be dramatically
all
sort
those things.
yeah, all of, to dramatically achieve, you know, the kind of chaos, and then you solve the chaos, or problems, and you're the hero who saves the day, or long hours. You know, we started at 9 this morning and finished at 2 a.m. You know, all of the dramatic stuff that people
All the
responded
dramatics.
to. Yeah, that were not they're not useful for me, or really they're not useful for anyone. The project we were doing, the show, would have been better if the work was more organized and the goals were more reasonable and the work was more understated and less dramatics and less heroics and less saving the day. And so younger me leaned into this and felt it was a kind of actualization, but it was a false actualization.
Right. Like,
You know what I mean?
this is my place in the world.
this
feeling on a subconscious level.
Like when you're 3 drinks in and this is the best night ever and you're my best bros and like this is awesome, and then
You're drunk on stress.
by 1 a.m. someone is puking and
Well, that's all a distraction from pain.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is my point.
Yeah.
So
On a sorry, you want to
well, there's no point. I'm just exploring that
I
the idea that people can respond. I'm not disagreeing with you. The idea that we need other people to sort of appraise our ability, but we need to be careful that it isn't that they're not reacting to something false or one layer of who you are that may not be who you really are.
But I think there's a
Right?
difference between praising your ability and acknowledging your contribution or ability, and then as a means of you then reevaluating yourself. It's sort of this feedback loop. So if someone says you're really great at this, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be great at that, or I do, and then maybe you can lean into that more, then it sort of provides that feedback loop by it again, it helps you align your drives. Like if someone says you're great at this and it benefited this common project, well, and you want to be good at that thing or you're interested in that thing, then great. Now you found a new pathway.
Yes.
If you use it as a means of just, oh, I got a compliment, then it probably doesn't have the utility as much.
I guess in short,
compliments.
when I look back at
They're great.
When I look back at this work, if you pick
nice shoes, bro.
the 5-year point, if you
I
pick,
love that compliment
Specifically.
but when I look back at this period of time, and if you pick the middle point, 5 years into this project, and ask me how I felt then, I would have said, this is in the year, this is the most realized, actualized I feel. This is the best version of me. And if I look now, I'm kind of embarrassed by who I was in that moment, in that sphere. You know what I mean?
Were you the most realized version of you at that point?
Probably. I mean, I'm sure I was. It's you know, you try to be kind to your former self,
If
right?
we could only measure it.
You mean you actually were?
Well,
You're saying you could not have been otherwise.
I think on any given day you're the best person you can be.
I don't
right?
think so.
No?
Nope. I don't agree.
I agree 100%.
No, because, well, okay, I agree at the fundamental level of that you can't be anything other than you were at that time.
Right.
Exactly.
But that's all we're saying?
Yeah,
And end it
that's
there?
it.
Okay, I
That's
can
the
end it
best
there.
we-
I don't want to...
That's the
As
best
in-
we could do.
As
at
in,
that
given
time.
the choice between, would you like to do the right thing or the wrong thing? Now, nobody chooses the wrong thing. They do the best they can.
Yeah.
But of course, tomorrow you hope it will be better.
Yeah, but there's moral ground that doesn't stand on completely because I'm a full believer in what you're saying. But at the same time,
I'm
This
waiting to see you inject free will somehow.
I'm not trying to inject free will.
I see where you're going with this.
No, I know you're
I don't-
not. But
I
that's
don't
what
know
I'm
where you're
saying. You
going.
have to inject free will to have that moral dimension.
But to say I'm sure I was the most fully realized version of myself, that is a different sentence than saying that's what happened.
Oh, that's
not the fullest-
Not fully. No,
But that's what the question was.
Sorry.
That's why
So
I'm
to-
pushing back on it.
Historically,
To clarify
But
the
it
language,
wasn't.
at that moment I was doing my best.
Because
Is that better?
That's better because in that moment of doing your best, you could have actually had the thought, "Ooh, I could do this or I could do this," and you choose the one that puts you in jail or hurts someone next to you. When yes, that's what you did, but that wasn't the fullest version of yourself because you also knew that you could do this other thing that would, on a moral ground, on a well-being
wait,
to suffering
okay.
spectrum.
it sounds like we're in two different dimensions of analysis. Hold on. So if we look at what we do moment to moment, right, we are, all of us, observing our behavior like a split second after it happens.
Yes.
Every thought,
up to 7 seconds.
yeah,
But-
every conscious experience we have is sort of after the fact, like we're looking at computation that's happening and then put on a display, right? That's what our mind is. It's the display part. It's after the fact.
Yes.
So, yes, we could not have done otherwise at any moment
Ever.
in our lives, right? Okay,
Ever.
so that's
Yes.
one level. This notion of self-realization is not in that moment to moment. It's a broader
Yes.
pattern and set of structures that have to do with energy and the direction of that energy.
Yes.
as a general structure, it's a map. It's not the reality of how time passes to a conscious mind.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is very fair
Okay.
to say. I think they're two different
Yes.
things, and that's all I was pushing back
Yes.
on. Yeah.
Yes.
Because
totally.
thinking about the dramatization that you were talking about, like everything is the most dramatic version of, it just makes me think of all the engineers out there that, you know, I even got a message yesterday. Hey, how do you deal with how many versions do you send of a mix? And I just wrote back unlimited. Like, what do you mean? I agree to something, and then you can imagine
it's like Brazilian barbecue here at the gift shop.
Until they put up the red card.
Yeah, you just turn it red. And
is it red?
Didn't you on that praying track with Kesha? Didn't that go like 17 or something?
17. Macklemore's Downtown was 21. That's the
Yeah.
longest I've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and 7 of those were done in a room with a Neve because Ryan decided he wanted to hear a version of a mix through a Neve, so we had to do all the notes of anyway. Point is, someone says that you can hear the engineer groan and be like, but you know, in order to do that, I have to do this, and this, and like everything is dramatic and everything is no. I mean,
I'm with you.
You know, and it's
100%.
like if you sign on to do something, you sign on to do it. So you do it. What's the utility to dramatizing what we said we will do?
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna take this and it's gonna take that. Okay,
Yeah.
the A&R or the producer and the artist is being like, okay, can you do it?
Does the audience care?
Yeah, does the audience? Yeah. So just do it. Now with that, this is obviously within reason, but thinking about, I'm just trying to correlate the drama to the fully realized version of oneself. Like, are we actually aware when we're doing that? Do we want to be that person? I don't think we want to. I don't think we've been told otherwise.
What are the behaviors that are incompatible with self-realization?
What are the behaviors that are incompatible with collaboration along the lines of self-realization? I mean, because you're talking about isolation, but also like I'm trying to bring in the collaboration. These are the same things. So when you're fully realized, you can be a better collaborator, which is what we all want to be, because no song is done by one person.
Collaboration gets us
Wouldn't
there.
the answer that being
It could, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's a
The extrinsic,
feedback
the feedback
loop.
loop. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, Rory. I was just
No, I know it. I wanted to riff on it too.
just hot on this.
Yeah, no, I'm hot on all of it. I'm confused by all of it. You know, I'm
me too.
I'm
What are you confused about?
pretty much all of it. No, every one of you have made.
You can't apply any of this 100%.
Well,
That's the
they're
thing. They're just
all,
levels of
yeah,
analysis.
They're different. Yeah, they're different
Yeah.
perspectives, and you're all making clear points. It's not that I don't understand any of your points. I think I'm just in the middle of renegotiating. It's part of what we're doing with the podcast, part of what I'm doing with Spider, part of the work we're doing with Unfuck for other people, which is really a way of kind of healing ourselves and understanding ourselves, and part of renegotiating my relationship with my mastering work and being in America, full stop, because it's in question right now. It's an open question in our household. So and sort of looking at the things that drive me and which of them are actually useful. You had a good way of sort of separating those two things. What are the engines and what are the roads? You know, it's like the things I articulate and say that I want, but the actual things that are driving me. And, you know, one of the things that drives me that's very unhealthy is the urge to be busy, the urge to be, the drive to be overwhelmed by work because at a given period in my life it served me. I needed
Protected you.
It protected me from real pain. You know, it was no more than someone drinking or taking drugs to excess. I developed a framework of work to excess to avoid a very difficult situation in my life.
Cheers to that.
And
No pun intended.
have never, the situation came and went, and I've never renegotiated my relationship with work. And that's sort of what I'm in the process of doing right now, and it's really, really hard, like really uncomfortable and really, just uncomfortable, which is why I'm sort of like everything all of you are saying and that I'm saying, it all makes sense.
I share your discomfort, man.
Yeah.
Not for myself, but for you.
Yeah.
Because we, you know, this shape that this circular shape that our conversation has is so good and so useful in some ways. And we also go in this circle about your relationship to work.
Yeah.
And as we work through it, I feel that discomfort.
Yeah.
Yours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, completely. It's
Yeah.
it's
Like I'm invested. Like I don't want to have any more emotional attachment to your relationship to work and how it makes you feel than is useful
no.
to you.
You've been a good foil because you will often call me on the busy making, the sort of the
Catch-22.
the needless work that I create. You know what I mean? Or shouldn't we, hey Spider, shouldn't we make this thing longer and more complicated than it needs to be? And you'll be like, no, let's not.
Yeah. Let's not diverge.
Wow.
right
let's
now.
not
Wait,
do that.
really? You have that?
I have a convergent influence on Rory
Wow.
in some instances.
Michael, is that your doing?
Well, no. I
Is that
mean,
our
it's,
doing?
these are dimensions.
He's got it in
I'm,
there. He
con-
tucks
I'm
it away.
convergent in some dimensions.
Tucks it away around us.
I can spreadsheet like a motherfucker.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
It
I
isn't.
can. Yeah.
I mean, what I'm doing often isn't even usefully. It couldn't be by any means be framed as being usefully divergent. It's more dysfunctional than that.
It's
not
like me in a grocery store.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's not
I'm
like-
all over the place 100 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
That was me yesterday.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
When I
so
heard talk.
indecisive in a grocery store.
Yeah, I'm with that.
I actually walked into the grocery store the other day and said, I'm just going to walk around and see what happens. And I walked out with like the most random stuff, but I heard talk and it was excellent.
That's what you do at a farmer's market. You see
Yeah.
what's in
That's
stock.
different. That's different.
I feel you.
Sorry,
sort of
Rory.
what's in
I
stock.
feel like we're
I don't know.
yeah.
That was
No, it's-
divergent.
no.
Sorry.
Rory's on a thing.
It's good. No, there's no thing. I don't really know what to say next about it. Honestly,
I feel like a lot of people are in that position. Man, there's a lot of things that we're going to say that are going to confuse a lot of people, and that's kind of what we're getting to. It's confusing us too. This is real-time confusion.
I mean,
Yeah.
struggling unnecessary during work. How much of the struggle you feel during? Ask yourself, how much of the struggle you feel during work is necessary? Could you struggle less? That's a whole project.
Yeah.
You know,
And how well do you understand your relationship to work? I
And to the struggle.
and
you could pick
and maybe
any
why
of
you're
these
struggling.
dimensions
Yeah.
and
when I
work on
think
them.
about
And it's-
when I think about a given week, if we look at the engine and the road, I will articulate. I would like to have an organized week without chaos. I would like to be available to my work, myself, and my family in the most, in the best possible way. And then I will go and make a series of decisions that commits me to a bullshit, chaotic week. I'll just do it. So it's kind of like someone, it's an alcoholic who says, I that's it, no more drinking, I'm not going to drink anything this week. And then Monday night, they're fucking hammered, and they've committed to delivering that record by Wednesday that's not viable because you've already said you'll deliver 2 records on Tuesday, whatever.
Yeah.
Or,
That's my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say,
You know,
let's just
and-
do it. Let's just do it and figure it out.
and I will,
There's energy in there.
yeah.
What benefit does workaholism, what utility does workaholism serve?
denial.
in your lives.
Very,
Form of
very
denial.
little now.
Well, you said
it's-
workaholic.
It's
Yeah.
very little now, but it
What utility does it serve in your life?
Yeah. What utility does alcoholic serve?
workahol. What is the phrase? What is the
Workaholism?
word?
You're-
Workaholism.
I don't know.
Serves no utility in my life now. But I understand why it arose.
But it's a pattern.
It's a pattern. Yeah.
You don't
And
believe there's anything there to protect.
it's a pattern. That
However, the pattern is established
Right.
and hard to
So
break
now you're-
apart.
yeah.
that was
But by
kind of
adding
formed.
holic to the end, that's a pathology, right?
Yeah.
This is like, this is
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it's a form of denial.
Yeah.
That's
It
why
could
I'm
have
so
utility
uncomfortable.
and not be good, which is why I'm asking.
Yeah.
the
Its utility
that it
is
serves for you
denial.
right now.
It's distraction.
Well, one of the
It's avoidant.
as I've spoken to Spider about, one of the sneaky things about workaholism is that it can be passed off as having great utility.
Yeah.
I'm supporting my family. I'm the guy who can always help you
I'm
get
on
out of
my
that
grind.
situation. Oh, you're struggling with your console. I know how to fix it. Oh, you need
I'm
your
out
speakers
here
to-
hustling.
Yeah, all of it.
Okay, hold on.
So
You said a lot of different utilities. So there's like value to other people. I feel like using you as a subject as this
There-
beacon for other people
Totally.
who are like,
yeah,
oh shit.
this is only
There's-
useful if we
because
do.
there's- I'm seeing it in myself. I know that I have a struggle with this. My mom had a struggle with this. I've seen it. It's deep. And I'm wondering for you, like right now, maybe it's not utility as in it's good, but what is it serving you? Does it
nothing.
make you feel better?
No, makes me feel worse.
Ultimately, but there's a moment where you say yes to things or you do a thing and it's not making you feel worse.
You did it because it was better than the alternative.
Well, nobody, if someone had, showed up and said, hey, you're at this key moment in your life. I'm going to give you a route to deal with this. And here are the implications of it in your life. Or you could
mean real good guidance?
Yeah. Or you could face up to the moment and deal with it in a way that you're not ready to. So you're going to need help and, all of that. If someone had done that, I would not have chosen the path that I took, obviously. I think that's obvious to say. But I didn't have that and I didn't understand it. And I made choices, conscious and I guess, subconscious, to deal with the moment, such as it was.
Right.
And then sort of, because it was formed in the kind of heat of a kind of trauma, which sounds dramatic, but it really was. It sort of, it affected my whole, it sort of formed my relationship with work, because it happened when I was sort of
At that formative age.
2021.
But now there's this flywheel.
Yes.
And the flywheel has to be fed to keep spinning.
Yes.
So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what is step one of this flywheel? What's being fed into it? Like,
I think
that is good.
every point is a way in. I don't think there's one point. I think you deal with the underlying emotional thing that's driving it. You also change your calendar. You do all the things you can do that influence that flywheel. I think it's the same thing with depression and anxiety. You do all the things. You exercise, you change your diet, you pick better friends, you do
Get therapy.
Take the medicine if that's wise. Whatever it is, you do all the things.
And that's
so
it.
as it relates to workaholism,
Yes.
what are the things that you're finding? I mean, on your path to combating this sort of pathology?
I'm not really on the path. I'm just sort of trying to understand the.
That's so you to say.
I think
but
you
I know you're definitely
on the path.
You're on the path. You might not be at the end of the path or even 3/4 of the way.
You're using examples of failure like missing my daughter's birthday. This is a potent example that you're using not only to express to other people what the stakes are, but that's how you're regulating yourself.
Did you miss your daughter's birthday?
Is this too are we crossing lines?
Yeah, is this too deep?
No, I don't think so. I mean, no.
I mean, I'm not, I sound authoritative in my tone, but this is just how I'm reading. And I mean, do we want to read like this?
I mean, I'm excited
Each other
about
here
it.
at this table this way publicly.
Hey, the two of us at this side of the table I think are feeling on a similar path. Like, I'm definitely exploring it as well. I think in a different degree, though. I think you are, and I don't want to cross any lines, but I feel like you're at this point pretty financially motivated, right? You have to support your family, right? So you're doing these things with hope to come out ahead financially, right?
I mean, I could. There are switches that could be flipped that would enable me to turn this overwork behavior into money, and I would be still unavailable to my family and myself.
Yes.
So I haven't tried to articulate this, but let's say that the three things we want to optimize for are availability to my family to be a parent and a good husband, availability to myself to just be in my body and my mind and be present, and make a living and support my family. And I think it would be easy to fix any one of those. Easier, but trickier for me to fix all three. I can, and there's a sort of a tension between me time and family time. There's a tension between work time and family time. You know what I mean? But there are many people who do find a balance, and so it isn't really financially driven for me right now.
Okay, that's good.
But
I had a thought.
Yeah.
After, keep going. But I had a thought about this.
Go. Yeah.
So as you were saying that, I was mapping it out as I like to do. I sort of formed this triangle of family, self, and finances. And like, if you look at that over time, that triangle is going to change size or scale or angle or whatever. And it's like, ultimately it's driving at this word like dynamic. It's like a dynamic system. It's never going to be stagnant and always exactly the same.
It's sort of the myth of work-life balance.
Yeah, I think what it's getting at is at certain times one might be angled a little bit sharper than the other, and as long as the objects and people in that system are okay with that, including yourself, including your family, including your checkbook, as long as they're all okay with that flexibility, then the system is fine. If it breaks at any sign of dynamism, then that's, I guess, where the issue is. But if you acknowledge that it's a static or a dynamic system and everyone in that system acknowledges that it's dynamic, then it's fine. I think often, I know for me, and this is speaking for me strictly, and maybe this resonates with you, is I was looking at this as a static system. And as soon as one changed, it's like, oh shit, the whole thing's broke. Now I need to re-architect this. But instead, what if it was just dynamic? And sometimes like when money was tense, the family thing had to adjust, the self had to adjust. And all of these things are kind of working fluidly over the course of your life.
Yeah.
And maybe a new attribute comes in. Now you have a dynamic square, rectangle.
Have you ever seen the show Downton Abbey?
I've been thinking about this the whole time we've been talking for the last hour. I wanted to say it too.
Go.
No, I mean, that's
please.
exactly what you witnessed the entire time.
Yep.
Their finances, family, and selves, and they're all in conflict, and they're in constant negotiation.
But there's so much honor in the negotiations and so much realistic
What you're transparent and
rationality
honest
and
Wait, but you just
And
said
the
the word
lies
conflict, which I think is interesting because when you apply that word to the system, it's now immediately in a negative place. Whereas,
not necessarily. There's always going to be conflict.
yeah, but
Tension, maybe? Tension's a better word?
Tension,
between the...
It's a dramatic,
Friction.
dramatic
or
term. We're talking
compromises
about
between the attributes of the thing. Like, I think conflict is like one needs to win, or,
No, that's just when two agendas collide.
Yeah.
right.
That's honesty.
There might not be a winner
But
at all.
if two people are
I guess I'm getting
transparency-
away from the idea of collision because I don't know if it's collision as much as
Where
like
they meet?
Like, what is this? Like, if a triangle's moving, these lines aren't exploding into each other; they're just moving.
Yeah, so
know?
let's use what's the least dramatic way to say that energy
yeah.
going this direction meets energy coming from this
Friction.
direction.
I'm
Well,
saying
no,
it's always met. It's
I
just
see
being
this a little
negotiated.
bit. I see this a little bit like Michael. So let's think of work and family.
I just don't see conflict as negative.
Agreed.
No,
I think that's the
I don't
thing.
see it as. I'm not necessarily seeing it as negative either. But it's more that when let's say I work, big project comes in, 2 weeks hard in the studio, later nights, and my daughter says, "I miss you. I wish you could have come to the picnic today." You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't feel like conflict to me. It feels like tension. And we talked some this week about the intent of the words and the. And
Yeah, but if you want Chinese food and Sid wants Indian food, like
I just want to
those ideas are in conflict. You can't do one or the other.
Yes,
You
the
can't do both.
definition is a state of open, often prolonged fighting, or a state of disagreement or disharmony between persons or ideas, a clash. And I guess it's
disharmony. Those are good.
Yeah,
Disharmony.
I'm just wondering.
Okay, so
Like,
I know I've got it.
Because in a way that makes that system disconnected. It's like, oh, they're not connected. They are connected. It's more around how do you negotiate that change.
Let me
maybe
say
it is
something before I
friction.
forget it.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
we all know about the what would you call them? A functional alcoholic, someone who can drink to excess and get up for work every morning and whatever by normal societal metrics.
Super healer.
Yeah,
genetically,
they're- whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And so what I think I've recognized why I'm uncomfortable with the word conflict is because when I think of my life and the dysfunction of my relationship to work, there isn't conflict. My wife is not shouting at me or even being unkind to me about my work. She's empathetic, she's kind, she's understanding, maybe long-suffering. My kids too. It doesn't have the character of conflict, but it is still unhealthy.
You actually just said it. You said the word dysfunction, and by definition, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Which is
it's more general.
well, no, it's not. It's specific to systems. So it's the abnormality or impairment of a system.
Right. So you're zooming out from the detail of the friction point to the level of the system.
So my work.
Right.
So it's a bigger. It encompasses more than
conflict could be why a system is
conflict is in
dysfunction.
the system.
It could be.
Yeah.
Could be, or it could be lack of communication, or it could be whatever.
It's a form of dysfunction.
Let's zoom out. I have a in my world, there is dysfunction in my relationship to work, and because of that, it affects family and money. And there isn't really conflict. The character of the day is not. It doesn't have conflict. So that's why I was. You know what I mean. So I don't want. I think why I was uncomfortable with the word conflict because I don't want. It's like, well, we're not shouting at each other over the dinner table. You missed, the picnic.
Right.
It's not like that. But it's still. That doesn't make it acceptable.
So how do we think about like conflicting ideals or conflicting worldviews?
Well, that's
like
conflict.
They're incompatible with each other.
Sure,
like
but that's a different problem.
I'm having one problem.
Just thinking about how energy and desires.
Okay, no. So let me put a point on that.
Yeah.
So I keep using the alcohol thing because it seems to it helps me clarify.
Yes.
So conflict in that relationship would be my wife says you're drinking too much, and I say I'm not drinking too much. It's just fine. All my friends drink this much. Me and the boys.
That's dumb conflict.
No, but it's conflict. Whereas if my wife says you're drinking too much, and I say, I know I'm drinking too much. I'm not happy. I'm gaining weight. I'm unhealthy.
That's not
I'm missing work. Exactly. It's not conflict, but the dysfunction is still there, and I can't stop.
Sure.
So just because the other person is okay with it, just because there isn't conflict, doesn't make it.
a functional
doesn't make it
system.
okay. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Hold on. Wait.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about outcomes yet. What's the outcome? What do we actually want from all of this?
Yeah, what should the system
same three
produce?
things. The outcomes I want are to show up for my family, to show up for myself, and to make a living.
Okay. Hold
That's
on.
integration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
An example comes to mind. I don't know why I'm sitting like this, but
John is sitting like Gollum in Lord of the Rings.
So
No.
weird how this worked out.
He's not. I'm kidding.
Example comes to mind. We'll keep names out of it, but one of my closest producer friends messaged me today, said hello, talking about some things, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in LA week after next. Let's hang out." I said, "Where are you now?" He's like, "Oh, I just got back from Nashville to Nashville." He was in London for a long time, for weeks, and him and his wife have a kind of a rule that they don't spend more than 3 weeks apart from each other.
Nice.
Right? He's at a place right now where he's extremely high in demand as a producer, and I just this is for a different context, just to kind of take you out of the conversation. I think this
is great.
I thought a lot about this today because I feel for him, and yet I think that he's on the very specific and correct path, where though he's away and he hates being away. This is causing tension. This is causing friction, conflict in the relationship. There is actual disagreements. I know because I know them very well. In fact, when I said, "Are you coming? Is so and so your wife coming to LA?" He said, "Sadly, I don't think she's going to come this time," which is a big bummer. Like we want her to come, right? So all this is happening, and my only reaction is. My first reaction is, well, your family's going to thank you later because you're paving the way to afford to send your child that you will have one day, he does not have children yet, to school one day, right? To maybe be able to buy a second property in Los Angeles outside of Nashville so you can have dual residences and kind of spread your life across these two cities, and your family can come, your dogs can come, all this can happen, and you could seamlessly integrate work and your life together because you can have
not work-life balance. It's integration.
It's integration, and the outcome that I'm hearing from all of this, or the potential outcome, is that, and you're not talking about that. You're not talking about how to bring the mastering house to a new property that you find that has this in there. So you can take a 20-minute break and go have lunch or dinner or coffee or tea or a glass of wine with Sydney, and like just do these I don't want, the word mundane comes to mind, but just these simple, these basic,
Simple. Yeah.
Not mundane at all.
not
Yeah,
mundane.
they're-
It's not the right word.
They're
It's
the
just
best
these-
bits
the
of your
best
day.
bits. I used the wrong word. I completely take that back. These simple moments, these shining moments. Like I now that Niku lives closer, I can have a quick coffee for even it's 15 minutes. I can run to Silver Lake, have a coffee, kiss, come back. Like it could be that fast, and that makes my day. That makes her day. These little things that, because I also struggle with this, but these are the ways I'm trying to integrate, and that's the word. And my producer friend is. I don't think he's thinking that way either, and that's what I'm trying to kind of assert into his life as a fan and a brother, and these positions of, I know this is a struggle, but there's a reason you're doing it, right? So I'm just trying to take the devil's advocate position of, workaholic is different than someone that is in demand and in high regard.
Enjoys
and
work.
enjoys work.
Yeah.
And, like there's got to
There may
be
not be pathology
No,
in the
yeah.
number of hours.
There are busy people
It's not the
who
number
have
of
a very
hours.
healthy relationship with their
It's
work.
what you're sacrificing.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
still haven't found
Or
what's
ruining.
unhealthy about what you're talking about, and that's why I'm bringing this other example. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, if Rory's not at his daughter's birthday party, that's
Right.
What's unhealthy is that I
that's
think
not
that
good.
ultimately,
I'm not saying that happened.
Yeah, 'cause that's what
Yeah,
I mean.
That's
but
just
that's
Rory's example.
Yeah,
like the
but that-
consequences make it the pathology.
But that wouldn't happen.
No, it wouldn't. But things like it have happened. You know, I've missed.
Yeah, these small moments
Yeah,
that we're
I-
not calling mundane, they've been missed.
Yeah, just playing. You know, the kids are playing. Hey, Dad, can you? You know, they're out front when I'm leaving for work. Can you play ball with us? No, I gotta go and do this record that I committed to.
And did you have to?
In that moment, yes, because
Yeah,
I'd
then you
said
had
yes,
to.
But not every
no,
time.
As John was speaking,
We're talking about
I-
the times that it wasn't necessary.
Well, the thing is there's the rolling effect of that the what's a good way to frame this? Like there's a rolling effect of this problem is that you say yes and you build your future. So the yeses that I said via text and email and calls today defines my next 2 weeks.
Yes.
So on next Monday, I don't have a choice about whether I go to the studio or not because I've committed to it today.
Yes.
I've said I can deliver that record by that deadline.
You have a clear commitment.
I have a clear commitment, and you know, so on any given day, I have an out. It's like I gotta do this because, but the problem, the dysfunction is sort of in advance. It's saying yes to things. It's building a schedule.
Compulsively saying
it's
yes.
compulsive saying yes.
When you have a thing in the back of your mind, like, fuck, I'm
Michael, jump in here.
not spending enough time.
Two things. One reminds me of a conversation me, Sputter, and John had on the way to Mini Kebab. Shout out. That's a sponsor I would be down to have.
Totally. Armin, what up?
Armin, what up?
I mean, that's...
Yeah, I'll take that. But we were on the way there, and we were talking about scheduling and calendars, and how you said you schedule life in, you don't schedule work in, and so work falls into anything that isn't already scheduled for your life. And I thought that was a really interesting approach to setting up that work-life integration, where yes, you can still say yes, and you can still go to the doctor or see your kids, or like every Monday, play ball. Like it can be built in. That's more of a structure that you place on the whole, within the system, in the center of the system, not on any individual.
My calendar is 80% life,
Yeah.
20%
Sick.
work.
Quotes, bars.
It is.
No, I love that.
Yeah, mine's got 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah, I got 8.5.
That's a third.
I like the extra
Yeah,
half.
I mean, so I think that's a method. I mean, I don't know. I'm like passionately thinking about just how can I help you in this moment, because you seem, overwhelmed by it, and rightfully so. It's confusing. And the other thing was when John was speaking, like, I was like, well, what if the system is functioning? What if it's not dysfunctional? What if it is functioning in the way, again, that it's kind of accepting yourself in this moment, but what if it's functioning at the optimal way that it could in this moment until we had this conversation, and then you changed
Oh, well, it absolutely is. Again, this morning I didn't wake up and sort of someone said, press the red button for a shit day and the green one for a good day.
Right,
And I
right.
didn't jam on
But
the
what
red
if
one.
the system was what determined that?
Every day I'm doing my best. And part of the process of discovery and the work that I'm doing and this conversation and sort of being honest about this stuff is sort of just putting it on the table, and the conversations I've had with Spider particularly to try and understand this stuff and sort of deal with the habits and the sort of, you know, these furrows that you end up running in.
Yeah.
Because you've done it for so long.
What I'm thinking
habitual.
though is, what if the system you currently have set up is netting those outcomes? And so you might have a few good days with that system, but more bad days or worse bad days than, you know, a typical bad day. Like, and so a slight change in the system, whether that's communication among all the parts or a process underlying it or a calendaring system or methodology or philosophy that needs to be injected. Like, maybe there's a slight shift to the system. I'm talking to myself right now, and you and everyone. and everyone
We're
around.
all talking to ourselves.
But maybe that's, and that will help that triangle kind of readjust. And maybe it's not a philosophical thing. Maybe it is a very bare bones, process oriented. I'm going to start scheduling life in first and then work. And then I'm okay saying yes. And I don't regret the yeses, which is the money part of this system. Like, you know, it's,
I love this clarity.
I like to offer challenges when I do live with Matt Rad, like mix a song without one compressor, just see what happens.
Yeah.
I would like to challenge people to schedule life first, and you'll probably find out that the minimal life requirements will suit you just fine, and you'll still have plenty of time to work, right? Like, what if you worked for 8 efficient hours or 6 efficient hours instead of you were available for 12 but only went up working 6 of them, right? And the reason I'm wondering about like the work from home mentality with engineers and producers that have young children and families is that a lot of our time spent is waiting for notes, especially on those like heavy deadline ones. Like when you're blocked for that song, you could be waiting around for 4 hours. As a mixer, as a mastering engineer or a producer, you can jump on another record while you're waiting, and there's always work to be done. But I've noticed that when I block time in my head, it's never on the calendar, that I'm going to do this in this time. When it's done, it's done. And I would go home. Like, I would actually leave the studio, and then I would give it out of, you know, I'd be like, nah, I'm home now, or something, where you set your boundaries to, well, I'm here till this point, and if you don't come in with that, and then granted, this is within that time, then that's
on you.
That's on you. But within reason. And like, if there's a crazy deadline on a project that you know about in advance, it's something you truly believe in, like whatever, you've signed on. This is the exception
and you know
to
what
the
you're
rule.
Sacrificing because you planned your life first.
Yes, but that can't be every time. Every record is not that. It's not that.
That's an emergency.
I bet it's not that way for the biggest producers in the game. Every record is that dire. It's like, schedule your life, and between 7 and 9 p.m. when it's time to have dinner, or 6 and 8, you don't work. And if you have to go back after, you go back after.
Let's imagine that someone offered you a choice at some point in your life.
Red pill,
maybe a formative choice. And they said, would you like to face up to something deeply traumatic, or make this record be dire, and tomorrow's and the day after?
We all chose the right one. We all chose the second one.
So the problem is, like, I'm thinking about my tomorrow. Kids are out of town. My tomorrow is a mess. And it's a mess because of decisions I made 3 weeks ago. I cannot fix tomorrow. So your challenge, I can't. Now, I can make better choices tomorrow that will have an impact on 3 weeks.
Of course.
Yes. No question.
Yes.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Systems thinking.
But this delay.
My question is, are you going to?
I'm going to try.
Great.
I'm trying all the time.
Well, then great.
Yeah.
You know, every day you do your best. And mostly it's like trying to understand the mechanics of this and the engine. What's the engine? What would I, ask me what I want, and then look at what I do, and they're not the same. You know what I mean? Just like the alcoholic, the guy does not want to roll home drunk at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But he's gonna.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's where I'm saying, well, maybe it's not you, maybe it's the system. So with I don't like using alcoholism. I mean,
Yes.
I know people dealing with that, but I mean, there's like, and it's sensitive. I'm sure it's sensitive for people, but any sort of addiction or pathology, like, is it just you? Is it the people you're hanging out with? Is it the place you're in? Is it how you've not set up your day, or how you have, like, to your point earlier?
much
Is it
of
the
it is
fact that you
diet?
have? Yeah,
I mean,
right.
there's so many factors.
What was
right?
that quote? Oh man, that I said the other day. Free will is.
It's a biology not yet understood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how much of it is are those subsystems?
Sapolsky.
I think I know.
Oh,
I
love
think
him
I
so
know
much.
one human. My daughter always calls people humans.
I do too.
Oh,
I
I
love
love
that.
that.
I love that. I
And
do it all the time.
This human, he said this.
Oh, that's great.
Mirabelle. But I think I know one person on the planet who has a more dysfunctional relationship to their work than me. One, and we could debate, whether he does or not. But
I think Rory is very hard on himself.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I
Wait,
wanna give
We've
you
talked a
hugs.
very long time about your areas of difficulty, but I got to tell you, the tone in your house is envious. It's really nice over there.
Yeah.
Your kids are great. Sid is great.
I'm sure they
It's-
maximize and love the time when
And-
you're around.
And that to me, that's
yeah.
why I don't, you're dead right. We need to be sensitive around the alcohol thing. But to me, it's kind of like a framework people can understand.
Yes.
And that's why I think of it as being like functional alcoholism. It's functional workaholism because when I'm home, I am a good dad,
Yeah.
and I have a great relationship with my wife, and she's very understanding and kind, and gives me a lot of leash to earn for the family, and she stays home, I work, but that doesn't mean that it's it doesn't mean that it's as good as it could be,
Of course.
or even close to being.
But I
I'm
think we're
just
all- we-
putting it in
we're all
perspective.
committed.
Yeah,
for a
no,
second,
you're-
'cause it's been a minute.
You're right, and
Yeah.
you're right to
Two things. I think we're all committed to it, knowing that it's not the best it could be, and aspiring for the next step. I think the next step is really the thing that you should reflect on and say, well, where in this pyramid of my life do I need to alter? Or maybe it's a subsystem of the self, or a financial, or family. The other thing, I was on YouTube today, and I have no idea. I must have hit like my videos, and I have this private link of a show that I played in 2018 or something. It was a record release show, and I never posted it or anything. And I was just like, oh, I'm out for a walk. I'm just going to play it. And I listened to it. And I was like, this is like one of my favorite performances that I've done. Like, my voice sounded great. The whole band sounded great. It was just fun. It was awesome. There's some things I would definitely change. But I dug it. But I remember in that moment and after the show and like before the show, like not thinking that it was any bit good. And it just had me in this moment where I was like, damn, like I'm so removed from this situation now that I can like really reflect on it kind of objectively. And I was like, man, this is cool. I wish more people heard that.
So what you're saying is you weren't the most fully realized version of yourself in that performance.
Def not. I never claimed to be. But
looking back, you're proud of it.
how I want to bring this full circle to what we're talking about is that, in the moment, it feels sometimes harder than it actually is, like, or worse than it actually
It
is.
feels however it feels.
Yeah, it feels away, and then that makes you think it's good or bad, or whatever level of good to bad there is. And so, like, I don't know. I mean, to your point, like, the family life seems pretty dope. That's good. And I know look, if you're being a workaholic and you're doing destructive things as it relates to work or the self, I don't want to encourage any of it at all.
Yeah.
By even saying, oh, well, your family's
Not
good.
saying nothing's
yeah, like,
wrong.
Yeah. But, I mean, the self of you that I know, I love, and the family part that I know, I think you're doing great. Financially, I've never seen your bank account, so I can't judge, but I don't know when you're saying yes. Look, I advocate anyone has a calendar for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's worth taking a step back, not now, or maybe now if you want, to reflect on that, because maybe it's not as bad as it might feel in the moment.
Do you guys know a psychologist called R.D. Lang? You ever hear of this person?
No.
Sounds like a psychologist.
Yeah.
R.D. Lang, R.D. initials. I I don't know how he's regarded now, but his sort of slant was that like a lot of what we call mental illness isn't an illness. It is sort of this, we call it dysfunction, but it's not actually dysfunction. It is appropriate response to conditions. So he has this sort of different relationship. There isn't this sort of stigma attached to the way he thinks about mental illness and how he thinks about treatment. And he wrote books. This is like 60s, 70s kind of thing. I just wondered if you guys, because he's sort of this type of figure that, I mean, there aren't many people, psychologists, who've been able to publish books in this way. And so he's sort of a singular voice, I think, taking that perspective still.
I heard the other day about this book called, I think it's like Philosophy Over Prozac or something. Another psychologist who was advocating like, maybe it's just these psychologies that you prescribe to or subscribe to or haven't developed or have that are kind of distorting your worldview and then leading to other pathologies and whatnot.
I think Lang would, R.D. Lang. Yeah, here he is.
Laing.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified
Lang.
to speak on this at all.
Yeah.
So I'll say minimal, but wouldn't that still be some essence of mental illness if you subscribe to the incorrect ideas that were harmful to your mental
I think it's a
health?
dysfunction. I don't know if it's an illness. The illness could be more biological, whereas a dysfunction is...
So mental dysfunction versus mental illness.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. I don't want to speak too much on this. We're clearly not
As the 4
qualified.
PhDs at the table. We're making distinctions.
I was thinking that was pretty heavy, and we should kind of
I
wrap
just want
up
to give
from
you a
here.
hug, man.
Yeah.
I'd like to end it on something more positive. I thought we could loop it around, but I don't know what that is.
I don't know if we have
But
to though.
it doesn't feel heavy to me. I mean, maybe it probably sounded heavy, but I mean, saying it feels better than not saying it.
I imagine, yes, I hope so.
And the word, when you say the word workaholic, I'm like, oh, that sounds awful. I don't know what that means. But if I think if someone was to look at the behavior, I think it would be fair to call it that. It's compulsive work, whether it yields good outcomes or not. It's the compulsion to sort of be busy, whether it's having any impact or not, and often creating situations where it won't. You know what I mean? So, but the funny that when you say the word workaholic, it's like, that doesn't fit. But definitely, renegotiating my relationship with it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's why it's important to have gone into this discussion today, because there's going to be many people that feel similar things to what.
And there's people that are
discussed.
developing it right now
that don't
under their
have to.
nose that have no idea.
Yeah, that's been a theme that we've sort of
It's that
explored
heroism thing.
in the earlier
heroics
episodes. Yeah.
thing that we're talking
And the stories, the tropes of kind of like, well, I went 28 days in the studio without eating or showering or sleeping. It's like, really?
Yeah.
And you're telling this to the kids, why?
Yeah.
Well,
Again, I think of these extreme things as like maybe tests for teenagers, like extreme sort of feats of proving oneself to peers and elders and whatever. But this is not how to sustain business.
Yeah, exactly.
There's value in that sort of thing.
There's a wiki on workaholism, and they describe it as a disorder, not a dysfunction. But it is a psychological disorder, which I guess is similar, out of order.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is even they're including procrastination as someone that is a savoring workaholic.
Yes.
So perpetuating the work
Oh,
by procrastination.
tons of that.
Savoring is so ugly a word.
Yeah, I mean, so
in
there's
that
a lot here.
context.
It's worth looking into if you even see a hint of it. But in terms of ending on a positive note, I feel like the fact that we had this conversation was very positive. For me, I think it's great just hearing this and kind of sorting through it. And hopefully if it could help you or anyone listening, like that in and of itself is positive.
I can bring it back around because Geoff, had mentioned today how important it was for him to hear that when we went into COVID lockdown that you lost a lot of motivation and didn't really understand what you were mixing.
I just got it back like 5 days ago.
Yeah. And Geoff, for
It's been
him,
a long time.
he felt like, man, somebody else feels this. and that's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing mix engineers broadcast to the
No.
world. Like, I'm not really feeling it this week, this month,
Yeah,
nobody
6
talks that way
months, yeah.
publicly. And that meant a lot to him,
Yeah.
So for anyone who relates to this, I know how much I've related to conversations like this, had such impact on me.
That's what we're looking for, is to kind of explore the personal stuff and see how we can make it useful generally and develop ourselves,
And I want to know how people are finding this,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
what they're getting from it, what they're not.
Hit us up, talk to us, let us
Yeah.
know on the
Please
DMs
write
or
in.
whatever.
DMs come through.
It really, we should also say, and we don't say this publicly enough, but we receive these messages from people at random times during the day, unexpected, just about how grateful they are and how happy they are of the things that we're doing. This is the furthest thing from a flex. It's me expressing gratitude towards everyone that is, one, taking the time to listen to our bullshit, and two, like, then reflecting on it and then messaging us and then engaging us in conversation. That is easily the highlight of my day, and I know it seems as though
we share
yours
them
as well.
Completely. It's
It's real community.
It's a big
Yeah,
It's the best part.
Exactly.
Of
It
community.
feels
One of
like
best
the
parts.
community that we've been
was the
speaking on
goal.
building.
Yeah.
Seeing that happen is unbelievable and really hard to describe how beneficial it is.
Well, it actually, it feels like sort of actualizing our potential. It feels to me when, Spider and I talk about it, when we do these unfuck video calls, I get up 3 hours later more energized. I'm a better dad coming down the stairs than I was going up the stairs. I feel like we've made an impact on someone's life. I feel like I'm better for it. Everyone is energized. We've unlocked potential. And this definitely every week. We've had some conversations where it's like, that was really tough. And often, a week later, I'm really glad we had them. They weren't necessarily super fun, happy conversations at the time, but they were really useful to me personally or professionally or whatever. And so I feel like when I was sort of characterizing my work as a lot of it as being busy work or being negative in my life, this and the unfuck work is not part of that. This is and I think part of why is because this is very real. There's no place to hide in this. It's kind of like we're bringing the truth of ourselves and
to the literal table.
Yeah, the whole thing, successes and failures and struggles and joys and whatever,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I'm happy we could do this together.
Yeah, for sure. Hit us up if you have any thoughts, and thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Good night,
Peace.
everyone.
Until next time.
Hit the music.
No, I can't do the music at the end. I don't have that technology. It was in the Pro Tools session at the start.
Dylan will do it. Dylan will take care of it.
I'll crash the internet. Go, Dylan.
Conversations is produced and mixed by Dylan Seals. The Conversations theme was performed and recorded by the Hazelrigg brothers.